Welcome to A-Level Biology at Cheshire Grammar School. I'm going to run through some of the aspects of the course, including assessment, some of the topics that you'll be covering, particularly in the first term, and then thinking about some of the activities that might take place during A-Level Biology lessons at Cheshire Grammar. Here are some of the possible career paths that you might choose to take after following an A-Level Biology course. There are many others that you might choose to apply for also. Here are two of our past A-Level students in one of our labs making models using Molymods. They're making models of biological molecules. That's one of the first topics that will be covered when you start the course. It just gives you an idea of one of the activities that you might do. This is something else that Year 12 students often get involved in, sometimes when they're in Year 13 as well. We have a British Science Week, and usually takes place in March, and our Year 12s do a project at the end of Year 12 where they investigate something of their choice, something that interests them, something that they maybe are applying for or is linked to something that they're applying for at university. And they do a course project based on that, and lots of them turn out to be really good presentations that they give. And so we get some of them to present during British Science Week for some of the students lower down the school, and it's something that's really well received. The residential biology field trip is something that we may or may not do next summer. It's something that we've done in the past. Obviously didn't happen this year, but it's possible that it might happen again in the future. There are some other possibilities as well. This one talks about a 4-day course, but it's possible that we might do a shorter one just with an overnight stay, or maybe not at all. I think that what we're thinking that we will do is that when the course starts in September, we will have a chat with everyone who's doing it and see what the consensus is for the sort of thing that you might like to do. But this is the 4-year course, and the 4-day course, and something that you might be interested in. Here are some of our students on one of the field trips that we've done. It's always good to get away to a coastal location so that we can do seashore ecology. And you can see there, this is one that we did in Devon, and they're looking at seashore ecology, doing a little sampling study there. We also look at freshwater invertebrates, and that's what these students are doing. They're at the side of a freshwater stream, and they've just done a bit of sampling there. We would sample at a number of points along the stream, taking measurements of the stream as well, and see if we have any correlation between the results for the freshwater invertebrates and the other physical measurements that we've taken about the stream. And the students here are sampling the freshwater stream at another location. Okay, so these are the topics that you would study in years 1 and 2 of the Biology A-Level course. You can see that we start off with biological molecules and cells, and you can probably guess quite a few of the kind of areas that might be covered during those topics. And then organisms exchange substances with their environment. That includes things like the breathing system and circulatory system. And then genetic information, variation, and relationships between organisms includes things like classification, a little bit of genetics, meiosis is also in there, as well as courtship behaviour, which is not something that you will have done an awful lot on at GCSE, but is often quite amusing. Some of the things, especially that the birds get up to in order to attract members of the opposite sex, can be quite amusing. Year 2, again, lots of the things there will be familiar to you. Energy transfers in and between organisms, things like respiration and photosynthesis are included there. Organisms respond to changes in their environment. So this one will look at the nervous system and muscles, muscle contraction, that kind of thing. Number 7, genetics, populations, evolution and ecosystems. So this one is the one that relates to the ecology that we were looking at with the field trip there as well. Number 8, the control of gene expression is something sort of based on DNA and DNA technology, which is not something that we do an awful lot of at GCSE, but really interesting, and the sort of thing that is going on in research at the moment. So some of the DNA technology is quite fast moving, and the sorts of things that you might have seen on the television. So hopefully, even though that's not something you would have done an awful lot of up until now, hopefully that's something that you will find interesting. Okay, so we do like a bit of doing backs at Chesham Grammar, so just thought that we would put some of the things that you're going to study in the first term in this format for you to have a go and see if you can guess, see if you can work out what they might be all about. So this is one of the things that you would study in the first term under the biological molecules topic. So this would be a biological molecule. So all of the topics or areas of topics have been a part of the biological molecules topic up until now. This one is part of the cells topic. I don't know if you can work out what it might be. Okay, so lots of you will be really familiar with the required practicals that you had to do at GCSE. We have them at A-level as well. There are 12 required practicals throughout the 2-year course that have to be completed. But not only do they have to be completed, they will also be assessed. We have something called CPACs, which are a number of different skills that have to be fulfilled during the course of those 12 required practicals. We wouldn't be assessing all of them every time you do a practical. We usually assess 3 to 5 of the skills for each practical. And so if you miss one of those skills during one of the practicals, there will be at least 2 other practicals where you could get a tick, if you like, for that particular skill. These are assessed because they go towards a practical endorsement certificate that you would receive alongside your A-level grade at the end of the 2 years. The practical endorsement is a pass or fail thing, or a pass and a not pass, and the only reason for you not to pass it would really be if you didn't attend. If you attend and do the practicals to the best of your ability, because you have more than one opportunity to pass them, there's no reason why you shouldn't. But it does focus our attention on the skills that you should be developing during the course. The practical endorsement is also something that some university courses might look for, especially if there's a practical element to the course. So things like medicine, veterinary science, dentistry, physiotherapy, those sorts of courses have asked for people to have passed the practical endorsement. The required practicals will be written up, and the write-up is assessed, and that's used for evidence that you have passed the various skills that are being tested. The write-up from the practical is also important because when you get to the end of your 2 years, you'll have a paper 3 which includes questions based on those required practicals. So your write-ups will be useful for revision at that point. Okay, so at the end of the 2 years, you will sit 3 papers as listed here. Paper 1 is based on the content that you would study during year 1 of the course. Paper 2 is based on the content that you would study during year 2 of the course. And the questions that you'll meet during those 2 papers are very similar to the ones that you'll be used to at GCSE. They're similar sort of in their style. Certainly if you followed the AQA course at GCSE, you'll notice that they're similar in style. And they're sort of similar in length as well. You've been used to 6-mark questions, and the most that you would see in one of those papers is an 8-mark question. So very similar to GCSE there. Paper 3, though, is a little bit of a departure from the sort of thing that you might be used to. The style of the question is a little bit different. It kind of focuses on practical skills, and lots of the questions will be based on those required practicals that you will have completed. And at the end of that paper, there is an essay which is worth 25 marks. So you'll be given 2 titles, and you can choose which of those 2 titles you wish to write about. And you then follow a structure where you talk about or include writing about 5 different areas of the course in order to answer the essay title. This is one of the required practicals that you will do during the course, and it's actually one that you'll do during the first term when we study the cell membrane. We would usually, if you were able to come into school, get you to do the experiment in class, but that's not something that we can do this year. So we're just going to go through it, and I've attached a video as well so that you can see the sort of experiment that you might do. So you've probably noticed that the beetroot is a certain colour. That's due to the anthocyanin that it contains in the vacuole. So you would investigate the effective temperature on the permeability of the beetroot. So really on the ability of the beetroot to release some of that anthocyanin. So we're going to you would put it at different temperatures, the beetroot that is, and then have a look at the amount of anthocyanin that has leaked out of the beetroot. So in order to make it out of the beetroot, it has to pass out of the membrane around the vacuole, which is called the tonoplast, and then out through the cell surface membrane as well. So have a think, what would your hypothesis be? What do you think the effective temperature will be on the permeability of the membranes? Do you think it's going to make them more or less permeable? This is an example of the method that you would follow when you were carrying out that experiment. There's a video on the next slide which you can watch, which goes through all of the different steps and shows you the results that you would gain as well. So you can have a think about whether the results fit the hypothesis that you came up with. Okay, so at A-level you have 4.5 hours per week of teaching. That's split between two members of staff. So you'll have two teachers. One of the teachers will teach the biological molecules topic and one will teach the cells topic in the first term. So one of the teachers will have 5 hours with you and one will have 4 hours with you over the 2 weeks. We do recommend that you get a textbook. The first textbook that's mentioned there is the one that we would recommend that you buy, but you're welcome to leave that until you start the course in September, and we will give you an opportunity to buy the textbook through the school, which usually works out considerably cheaper than buying it yourself. The second textbook that's mentioned on this slide is one that we pay for you to have access to online. So you will have access to something called Caboodle, which you might have come across before. And on there is a digital textbook that you'll be able to use, and we will give you access to that at the start of the course. It's really good to have two textbooks because no textbook is perfect, but these are both good textbooks, and we think that if you're making notes from both of these, then that will give you a really good coverage of the content at A-level. Okay, so what will help you to be successful at A-level? Well, definitely biology is a content-heavy subject, so learning the content as you go along would be a really good start for you. We suggest that you do this, or one of the ways in which you do this is that you consolidate the work that's been covered in class and make notes from the textbook. So you should have access to two textbooks, and we'd expect you to make notes on the work that's been covered in class from each of those textbooks afterwards. Reading around the subject is a really good thing to do as well, and sources for that might include journals, textbooks and the internet. We do buy in a journal for you called the Biological Sciences Review that you can buy through us. Again, it usually works out slightly cheaper if you buy it through us than if you go out to the shops and buy it. It usually works out as being about £15, I think, for the 4 editions that you get during the year. And I think if you went to the shops, it would be about £5 each probably. But it's a really good journal for you to have a look in. It's aimed at A-level students and it reports on research that's happening at the moment. So it's very current, but it takes it sort of assuming some advanced GCSE and some basic A-level knowledge and takes you through to explain all aspects of the research. They also in there sometimes have little articles on exam technique and things, so they can be useful too. In the textbook you'll also see, so for the third point there, you'll see there are summary and application questions in the textbook, and we'd like you to have a go at completing those. This is a really good way of checking your understanding, and then we'd hope that you keep your notes in an organised file. So we will do file checks, particularly near the beginning of the course, just to make sure that you are making all of the notes and doing all the things that we hope you would do, and that you are keeping it in some sort of organised file. So this is the summer work that we hope that you would do. The transition from GCSE to A-level can be challenging. There's a lot of a lot of content to get to know in biology, and if you start doing that right from the start, then that will stand you in good stead really for the whole of the course. So this would be a really good start. The Head Start book for A-level biology, as you can see there, produced by CGP, who I'm sure you're familiar with, and they have pages where there's lots of content for you to read through and make notes on and learn, and it kind of takes it from GCSE level into the beginnings of A-level, so it does really bridge the gap from GCSE to A-level. When you get the book, you'll see that the pages are very much like this, with information on the majority of the page and a couple of questions at the bottom. We'd like you to go through the content and make notes. Now, some of the topics you might feel quite confident about and won't need to make too many notes, and some of them you might not know so well, so you might want to make more notes on those. And then there might be aspects that are new to you, like you probably haven't learned on here the structure of an amino acid that's there at the top. It would be really useful to know this. It is something that you need to know at A level. So learning that would be a really good thing to do as well. When you've done that, then have a look at the questions at the bottom and make sure that you can do those just to check your understanding. We would also like you to complete a biological molecules project. As you've seen already, biological molecules is one of the first things that you'll study when you begin the A-level biology course. We've listed there the biological molecules that you'll study, so proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, etc. We'd like you to choose one of those and research that particular molecule. We'd like you to find out about the structure of the molecule and get to know that in detail, and then have a look at its roles in the body and in plants. And be familiar with those also. Okay, for some of them, there'll be more than others to write about that. And you should bring this work and the work from the Head Start booklet to your first A-level biology lesson, and we will look at it then. Whilst going through the Head Start book, it might be good to start first of all with areas that you weren't very confident with at GCSE and try tackling those to gain a full understanding of those areas. We run biology help sessions every Thursday lunchtime in school in one of the labs, and they will be starting up again in September. So if there are any areas that you wanted to go over with a member of staff, then do feel free to join one of those. So that brings us to the end of the presentation about A-level biology at Chesham Grammar School. I hope that you now feel that you know a little bit more about the course and the sorts of things that you might do during the course. And we look forward to seeing you in September, hopefully.